Retro game collecting is an expensive hobby, but it doesn't necessarily need to be. So in this episode, we are looking at 10 N64 games that are not only cheap, but also good. Let's get into it.
WETRIX!
Hello again and welcome to this week's episode. And yes, if you are a retro game collector, you know it is an expensive hobby and you know you want to be collecting for the N64. So this time we are looking at 10 games for the N64 that you could buy right now for under £10. That's right, if you're looking to start a new N64 collection or expand on your collection, these are 10 games that you could add to your collection for under £100 combined. What a way to build on that collection. Also, I just want to reiterate, these are not just cheap games, they are also good games. These are games you want to have in your collection. I'm not just talking about adding loads of racing games, a load of sports games just because they're cheap. These are decent N64 games that you need to play. A couple of things to bear in mind as we're going into this video. These are all the in-store prices in CX. I know a lot of kind of retro game shops might charge a little bit more for these, and of course if they're boxed and complete they're going to be considerably more money. So these are the CX prices today in store without delivery for just the cartridge. If you are just starting off your N64 collection, of course you will have an N64, but word of warning, some of these games do require the expansion pack, as in they need the expansion pack to play the games, but the expansion pack does make some of these games look better, so I definitely recommend picking one of those up. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button and also subscribe, as I put new videos out every Saturday live at 5, as well as bonus videos like this one throughout the week, and I don't need to miss any of the content. Now, into the first of our 10 games. You could arguably say that this is both a sports game and a racing game, but I wanted to make an exception for 1080 Snowboarding. This is an absolutely iconic N64 game in my eyes. I played a lot of this back when I first got my N64. You know, snowboarding was super cool back then, and I think arguably I prefer this to kind of cool borders on the PlayStation. You know, roast me in the comments if you will. This was a fantastic game for single player and multiplayer, and I think it still holds up as a decent snowboarding game. The tricks are cool in it, it's just easy to play, and it works perfectly with the N64 controller, and it's also super cheap. As of today, this game is just £3.50 in CX. It's a pretty common game, so pretty easy to pick up and add to the collection. Blast Corps was not only one of the first games I played on the N64, playing it around a friend's house who got the N64 in the early days. It was also the first game released on the console by a small little company known as Rare, and this game absolutely blew me away when I first played it. I don't think there was anything like this before, or probably even since. You know, the freedom to drive around multiple vehicles, to run around on foot, and it was just a cool premise. Having all that destructibility and freedom really showed what the N64 was all about, and this one again is super cheap, about £6 today in CX. Body Harvest is another game which has a couple of similarities with Blast Corps. Firstly, it was made by a small little company called DMA, who went on to become Rockstar North, and in my eyes this may have only come a few months after the original Grand Theft Auto, but I think this was a better game. This was a 3D game where you could explore, drive multiple vehicles, and I mean multiple, anything from small little motorbikes up to bombers, up to spaceships. This game was crazy. It was a free roaming GTA in 3D before that was even a dream people had. This game is an underappreciated gem on the N64, and you can pick it up for just £5. Seriously, if I ever do an N64 video, this game is always in it until everyone in the world has played this underrated gem. Not just one of my favourite N64 games of all time, but one of my favourite games of all time. That's right, Lylat Wars is an absolute beast. I love this game so much. I probably complete this game 3 to 4 times a year. Yes, it is short. You can complete it in 30 to 40 minutes. Yes, it's cheesy. It's just literally perfection to me though. The voice acting is amazing, and I just don't think Nintendo have made a Star Fox game which rivals this yet. I just pray one day Nintendo make another one of these games, but for now, you can pick this one up today in CX for just £5, and seriously, it'll be one of the best £5 you ever spend. Do not miss this one. Make sure you get your Rumble Pack. We all know that GoldenEye 007 is one of the most iconic shooters on the N64, if not of all time, but you can actually get its follow-up, its spiritual successor, Perfect Dark, for just £8. £8. And for that £8, you are getting a hell of a lot of game. This basically took a lot of the stuff from that 007 game. It didn't have the Bond license, sadly, but Joanna Dark is still a fantastic protagonist for this game. It has incredible multiplayer. It has some of the best weapons ever seen in any game. You can even have bots in your multiplayer game. So you and 3 other friends can go up against bots in multiplayer. It is basically single screen multiplayer perfection. And you can pick it up for just £8. So grab some controllers, grab your mates, and grab Perfect Dark. When the N64 first released, it didn't have many games, so it was definitely a case of quality over quantity. So, once you had played through Mario 64, which of course was the game everyone bought the console for, you could play Pilotwings 64. And this game was such a breath of fresh air. I know it was a follow-up to a SNES game of the same name, but I'd never played a Pilotwings game before, or really a game like this on console. It fully took advantage of the N64 controller. It was perfect for flying around in one of the 3 vehicles, but don't get me wrong, this game is tough. When you get to the last few challenges on this game, they are definitely still a challenge. But if you like your games a bit different, a bit more relaxed, but also with a challenge, check this one out.
3, 2, 1, rush!
San Francisco Rush is a £5 game for the N64, which is super fun. But please do not get it confused with San Francisco Rush 2049, as that game costs £155. But for just £5, this is some of the best arcade racing you can get for the N64. I actually discovered this game was this cheap when putting this list together. For £5, this is an absolutely fantastic game, which I think is probably one of the best racing games on the N64, and you can get it super cheap, so definitely one worth picking up. Star Wars Rogue Squadron on the N64 was somewhat of a dream game for me. I could finally see what it was like to pilot the X-Wing and other iconic Star Wars aircraft on my home console. Before this, you'd only had the X-Wing and the TIE Fighter games on PC, and now you could play it on your N64. And oh boy, did it play well. The N64 was absolutely perfect for this. It was so cool to fly all those iconic craft in the iconic battles, and this one is super cheap to pick up, so make sure you add it into your collection. Even if you're not a Star Wars fan, it is an amazing game. When I was recording this video, I found it really hard to decide between either Turok or Turok 2. Arguably, I kind of went with Turok 1 because it's the more iconic of the two. This one was an N64 launch game, and I think it has the best bosses. You know, you get to fight a T-Rex which has a laser beam and breathes fire. But arguably Turok 2 is the better game. The controls are a little bit tighter, and it does have some absolutely iconic weaponry, especially shout out to the Cerebral Bore, one of the most brutal weapons of all time. But you know, both of these games are super cheap. They are both well worth adding into your N64 collection, but for me, I think Turok just pips it to the post as for this top 10 video. Puzzle games are not really my favourite genre of all time, but when a puzzle is simple and addictive, that is what I like. Look at Tetris. It is a pretty simple premise, but it just works. It's so effective. And the same can be said of WETRIX. Essentially, in this game, you are just trying to make lakes. To get to a certain level of water, then you'll complete the level. This can be done with making the holes deeper, building the sides up, bombing it, and of course dropping in water. It sounds super simple, and yes, it starts off nice and simple, but like all puzzle games, there is a depth and strategy to this one, and yeah, it gets way more complicated the harder and harder it gets. And yeah, this is definitely a really good one. I don't even think they've ever re-released this game on any other console. I'm surprised this game hasn't been remastered or just redone in the present age, but it's a cheap N64 puzzle game you don't want to miss. There we have it then, folks. It just goes to show you don't have to spend all the money in the world to build a retro game collection. All of those games are iconic, fantastic games for the N64, and if you bought all of those together in store at CX, it'll be under £100. And it's just the best way to build a collection. Just start with some of the cheaper titles. We don't need to be chasing the most expensive titles all the time, especially when some of these games are absolutely fantastic and they're all under £10. I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please hit the like button. Comment below if you'd like me to do this for another console. Say, would you like to know about 10 decent PS1 games under £10? Let me know in the comments below. Subscribe for more videos like this. New videos every Saturday live at 5, as well as bonus videos during the week. Thank you all again for watching, and as always, keep playing the game. See y'all soon.